Alright people, we are live. A few minutes early because YouTube only allows you to do 15-minute intervals. Sort that out, YouTube. Pain. So it's either I start bang on PMQs or I start too early. So I can kind of find a bit of a medium, I suppose. But it's annoying. Something YouTube needs to really look at. So yeah, damn you YouTube and such. Some big news that's come out in the last few minutes as well, which is going to be quite interesting. But yeah, we'll wait for some people to roll in. This song is it's a cover by Retro of Bardock Falls, which is pretty haunting. Excuse me, I got hiccups now. Great. But yeah, this theme was great. I loved it when I saw it in the film. Loved it, and he does it justice as always. So yeah, we'll wait for see if anyone people roll in. Oh, we've got 6 people now. Sweet. But yeah, there's a couple of clips I want to show you and some news I want to break just before, or not breaking the news, but you get what I mean. Just before PMQs. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Oh, it's such a beautiful theme. This scene was so emotional in the film. I loved it so much. But yeah, there's some breaking news here, and I'll probably talk about this at the end of the stream, which is Bury MP Christian Wakefield is defecting to the Labour Party. I'm going to turn this down a bit. Turn it down on YouTube. There we go, that's perfect. I've looked this guy up, right? He won a very, very small majority. Labour essentially crumbled here. They lost, 10% of their vote. So it's obvious why he's kind of moved to join the Labour Party. He's fearing to lose his seat, and there'll be a lot more of this kind of thought, I would believe. He's only got a majority of 402, 0.8%. Very, very slim margins here. So I would wager that he's scared he's going to lose his seat, and when you're on the gravy train, no one wants to get off. So he's defected to the Labour Party. So yeah, I mean, someone's asking, does his letter to the 1922 committee still count? Which is probably an interesting question. I reckon he should have waited. But yeah, a bit of a win for Labour. It depends if he can keep his seat in the next election, to be honest. If he loses, then there's no point. But it does kind of say, what kind of morals does this person have? What kind of morals does he have to join, the opposite side? It brings him into question a bit. So I'd have to look at his voting record. But the thing is, he's not been around for that long. He's not been around for that long. So kind of, see, election bill. I don't know what any of these are. Value added tax on energy household bills. So I think he voted. See, he voted no on. I'm assuming that's cutting the VAT on it. Not great. He voted yes for a welfare cap. Charter for responsibility. Not sure what that is. See what else we got here. He voted no for the draft Health and Social Care Act of 2008. Not sure what that's about. Health protection entry to venues. He voted no. Subsidy control bill. Voted no. Let's see. They haven't got normally they have an average of what he. See, they work for you. Is this the one I want? This is the one I want. So. Voted for, let's see, consistently voted against EU integration. Is this a guy the Labour Party actually want? Here we go. Voted against fewer MPs in the House of Commons, because obviously he stays, want more of them there. Voted against the proportional representation system for electing MPs. So the question is, is this fundamentally what this guy believes? Because never believe what they tell you, always look at their voting record. And, his voting record, not great. Yes, it's a big win for Labour. in a sense, but this was a Labour-held seat originally. So getting a Tory guy in, it doesn't really help. I mean, they could deselect him at the next election, but I don't think this is as big a win as it should be, because this guy's voting record isn't great. Good morning. So yeah, it kind of does make me a bit nervous. Sorry, I just got a message. It does make me a bit nervous about, you know, the kind of people that we are allowing as MPs into the Labour Party. Yes, it's a big coup for the Labour Party, but this is more self-preservation from Christian Wakeford rather than anything else. Oh, don't want to get copyrighted. You can see my music taste is very odd. Let's put on another tune from Retro. Because PMQ is going to start. It's going to start in a couple of minutes anyways. Let's see, which ones of his did I really like? Go this one. It's a bit loud. There we go. Thanks, Retro. It's pretty sound music. We'll show this clip after PMQs. To be fair, he'll do what the whip tells him to. Do you think he's that kind of guy? Because it is a bit dodgy. Like he's I do find it slightly dodgy that he's just, you know, suddenly. Are we at the Commons now? Where are we, BBC? That is an awkward place to pause. Don't really know where to run.
The way that this whole affair had.
Yeah, there's no good way to pause here, so we're going to leave that. I mean, you know, Sunak running out of a meeting here, so if we, I mean, not in a meeting, an interview, if we have a quick watch of this.
The Prime Minister set out his understanding of this matter.
His understanding of this matter. Okay, not a good start.
In Parliament last week, and I'd refer you to his words. As you know, Sue Gray is conducting an inquiry into this.
Swear down, Sue Gray is investigating the thing. Like, I've never heard of this.
And I fully support the Prime Minister's request for patience while that inquiry concludes.
Dominic Cummings and others have said that the Prime Minister was warned this party shouldn't go ahead. If the Prime Minister...
Look at this man, like, do these people not sleep yet? And secondly, he looks like he doesn't want to be here. He looks like he's struggling with these questions.
And lied to Parliament. He should resign, shouldn't he?
Well, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. The ministerial code is clear on these matters, but as you know, Sue Gray is conducting an inquiry into the situation. I think it's right that we allow her to conclude that job.
And you support,
support
the Prime Minister unequivocally?
It looks like he was pulled by his assistant. I'm not sure why. It looks like she got him out of there. Not sure why. That's a bit of an odd one. But yeah, I'm hoping the guy does what the whips tell him to do, because if not, you know, it's going to be a rough time all round. Can't win with these freeze frames. Do you think, does he not strike you as an alpha male, conservator? Does he not strike you as the alpha and the omega? Seems a bit mean. But yeah, we're almost there. PMQ is going to start in a couple of minutes. It's not going to be that long a live stream today. I've got other stuff I need to do. So yeah, I've got like other bits and pieces I need to edit and things. So I'm probably going to end the stream shortly after PMQs. But again, you know, this is a win for Labour in terms of the war of optics. This is a big win for Labour. So yeah, his voting record not great, only a slight majority. This is self-preservation at its finest. But you know, at least it's some good news for Labour, which, you know, you couldn't say that a lot last year. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what he kind of does. But he does need to remember that he's, you know, as an MP, he could easily get deselected. And so his voting record he has to be very careful with how he votes in the next few years. Oh, it's 12 o'clock. Should we see if it started?
What's happening here in Westminster really going down so well on the doorstep, and I think the messages they're getting back from some of their constituents is that it isn't. So it does feel like we're still in a bit of a waiting game. There are lots of people around Westminster today, journalists of course among them, trying to talk to MPs to work out where we sit. We won't know until Graham
Tory MP defects live. There you go. Look, BBC are covering it. Breaking news. You know, and they've done this just on the cusp of PMQ to really rattle Johnson, because a lot of these people in the back are going to be concerned now. Because one of their colleagues, you know, fair enough, he's new. Let's listen in now to... fair enough, he's new, but he has quit. Yeah, 0.8% 400
Prime
votes.
Minister's questions. Prime Minister's on his feet.
Division, clear the lobby. Sorry, wrong thing.
Wendy Chamberlain.
Why?
Question 1, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister, question 1.
Mr. Speaker, I will shortly be updating the House on this country's fantastic
Here we go.
progress in tackling COVID-19, including
We're not doing that great, pal. We really aren't.
our booster program,
Oh, here we go. Vaccinations already. Straight in there.
enabling us
Should we do, I'm a bit late to this. Should we do like a PMQs bingo or something like that? Should we do a PMQs bingo? Maybe I'll stream this on Discord. What do you guys think?
to ease
Yeah,
Plan
Rob
B
was.
measures and restore the ancient liberties of this country. Mr. Speaker, I know that the
Ancient liberty. We used to live under the rule of the king, pal. The king. What are you talking about, buddy? Ancient liberties.
House will be delighted that Her Majesty the Queen has given permission for a special medal
The queen you lied to. The queen that your department had parties with whilst her husband died and had to be buried alone. You know, she had to sit alone
to
because
be
of you.
awarded to all those who deployed to Kabul. Operation Pitting saw our servicemen and women deliver the largest British evacuation since the Second World War.
And you still failed them. And you still failed them. There were so many people left behind. You didn't keep open safe points of entry for people from Afghanistan. You failed the people of Afghanistan. The amount of, service veterans and people who helped Western forces, they weren't even allowed here properly. So get out, get lost, service coin.
The whole country can be immensely proud of their service.
Of your failure.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House,
You look
I
like you
will
woke
have
up
further
20
such
minutes ago.
meetings later today.
Wendy Chim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year we were told by the Prime Minister there were no Downing Street parties. Then it turned out there were parties, but we were assured that no rules were broken. Last week we heard that rules may have been broken, but that he thought it was a work event. And now yesterday from the man who wrote the rules, it was, well, nobody told me what those rules were. Mr. Speaker, 5 weeks ago the people of North Shropshire were clear, and the people of North East Fife are being clear to me now. No matter the excuse, there is no excuse for taking the British people for fools. Will the Prime Minister agree it's now time for him to resign?
I know, taking the British people for fools. That's what the Tories do on a weekly. So.
No, Mr. Speaker, but what I can tell her is that, as I said to the House last week, I apologise sincerely for any misjudgments that were made, but she must contain her impatience, Mr. Speaker, and wait for the inquiry next week before she draws any of the conclusions that she's
Next week? I thought it was meant to come out Friday, not next week. Oh.
just asserted.
John Burrow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Latest evidence and research shows that the UK is the most attractive country in the world amongst young people across the G20.
What does that even mean? The most popular country in the world for young people amongst the G20? What?
Intense soft power competition from other countries, including China. Can the Prime Minister assure me and other members of the British All-Party Group, British Council All-Party Group, that the government will meet the British Council's funding requirements to ensure it doesn't have to close any more offices overseas, and to ensure that it commits all its energy to retaining our top spot?
Bro, like, in terms of soft power, we're making massive cuts to the BBC. The BBC are massive for soft power. What are you talking about, my guy? Honestly. Hi, Giovanni.
Mr. Speaker, I entirely share my right honourable friend's enthusiasm for the British Council, which is a wonderful institution that we all love, and that's why we're providing through the FCDO £189 million of funding this year, a 27% increase, Mr. Speaker, in spite of all the difficulties this country is facing, 27% increase on the previous financial year. We've also provided a loan facility of up to £145 million to support all the wonderful work that the British Council does.
We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I start by warmly welcoming... Can I start...
Listen to the Prime Minister.
Can I just say, I expect people to listen to the Prime Minister. I certainly don't want the Leader of the Opposition shouted down. You might not like the day, but this is the day that we've got. Keir Starmer.
Might not like the what? the day.
I'm not bothered. I assumed it was directed over here.
Burn, slick burn.
Can I start by warmly welcoming the honourable member for Bury South to his new place and to the Parliamentary Labour Party.
Which geezer is it? This guy? Must be this guy.
Mr. Speaker, like so many people up and down the country, he has concluded that the Prime Minister and the Conservative Party have shown themselves incapable of offering the leadership and government this country deserves, whereas the Labour Party stands ready to provide an alternative government that the country can be proud of. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party has changed, and so has the Conservative Party. He and anyone else...
I said, you know, we've changed for the better and you've changed for the worse, but sure, okay.
...who wants to build a new Britain built on decency, security, prosperity and respect is welcome in my Labour Party.
Oh, that was smug. That was so smug. Can we see that again?
Every week, the Prime Minister offers absurd and frankly unbelievable defences to the Downing Street parties, and each week it unravels.
Oh no, we went forward instead of backwards, fine.
I've been elected the chair. I don't need to be told how to conduct the business. So if somebody wants to do some direction, I'll start directing them out of the chamber. Keir Starmer.
Can you do that now, please? Because it's getting ridiculous. It's been shouted down twice now.
Mr. Speaker, I see the very noise. I'm sure the Chief Whip has told them to bring their own booze.
Wow, so he's had his Weetabix today or something, or you know, he ain't playing around today, is he? He's got the slick burns. That's 2 already. He hasn't even asked a question yet. It's 2 already. Hey, that's 2 already though.
Order. Let's try and get on with questions. It's going to be a long day if not. Keir Starmer.
Slick burn Starmer.
First he said there were no parties. Then the video landed, blowing that defence out the water. Next he said he was sicker than furious.
Might see some prosecution styles here.
When he found out about the parties,
went with that last week.
It turned out that he himself was at the Downing Street Garden Party. Then last week he said he didn't realise he was at a party, and surprise, surprise, no one believed him. So this week he's got a new defence. Nobody warned me that it was against the rules. That's it. Nobody told him. Since the Prime Minister...
I like how he's pausing looking at the speaker, like, it's just like, can you believe this guy? Like, this guy. Oh, it's a great pantomime.
Why on earth does he think this new defence is going to work for him?
I would have went with, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how this plays out for him.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, he talks about the rules, and
he's going to bring up the beer story.
I said to the honourable lady across the aisle earlier on. Of course, Mr. Speaker, we must wait for the outcome of the inquiry. But
I've heard this before. This was last season stuff, man.
I renew what I've said, Mr. Speaker. But when it comes to his view, nobody believes what you said.
Did you hear that? Did you guys hear that? Do you guys hear that? No one believes what you said. Do you guys hear that?
Can we have a little less?
Oh my God!
This Prime Minister, like I wanted to lead the opposition, I want the same courtesy from both sides. Prime Minister.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Speaker, if we'd listened to the right honourable gentleman about COVID restrictions, which is the substance of his question, then Mr. Speaker, we would have been in lockdown after July. If we'd listened to...
And the NHS wouldn't have been in such bad shape. You wouldn't have so many people leaving and other problems, but sure, okay.
If this is the truth, if we listened to the Labour front bench in the run-up to Christmas and New Year, Mr. Speaker, we would have stayed in restrictions with huge damage to the economy.
He's trying to appeal to those kind of, the COVID research group, or whatever they're called. That's who he's trying to appeal to now. This is pure red meat for the base. And red meat is bad for you. Red meat is bad for you.
It's because of the judgments that I've taken and that we have taken in Downing Street.
That the NHS is still crumbling again. Routine operations are going off. Massive amounts of the death numbers are rising. The case numbers are rising. Huge problems across different sectors because people are off sick. We've run out of lateral flow tests and PCR tests. Because of all the hard work Downing Street is doing.
but we now have the fastest growing economy in the G7.
We also fell the furthest, so that's, you know, people calling that an economic mirage, which is true. So no.
And GDP, Mr. Speaker, now back up above pre-pandemic levels. And
is our GDP above pre-pandemic levels? Because the last I read, it wasn't the case. So maybe I'm wrong.
Bury South, Mr. Speaker. As for Bury South, let me say to the right gentleman, Mr. Speaker, by all leave, may I say to the right honourable gentleman, that the Conservative Party won Bury South for the first time in generations under this Prime Minister, with an agenda of uniting and levelling up and delivering for the people of Bury South. And Mr. Speaker, we will win again in Bury South at the next election.
And we will win again. We'll come back to your ends and we'll go kick you out again, son.
Prime Minister.
I mean, was that really worth all the chanting and all the foot stomps and stuff? Like, what is this, honestly?
Look, it's important I want to hear both sides, and I don't want this continuous chant.
Bro, just kick him out. Stop being an idiot. Just kick him out.
Because if we do, there'll be less people on these benches, and the same on the other side. I expect both sides to be heard.
Oh, both sides are just as bad, yet one side is way worse than the other. Typical. Brother, do something. Start kicking people out. It's ridiculous.
Here's that.
Bury South is now a Labour seat, Prime Minister.
Sorry. Order.
Bro.
Did somebody want me to apologise? No, somebody shouted apologise. I hope it wasn't aimed at me. No.
Bro, should they be shouting apologise? Kick him out.
And so we'll also have less from that corner, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Not only did he write the rules, but some of his staff say they did warn him about attending the party on the 20th of May 2020.
Yeah, Dominic Cummings is like talking to Sue Gray. The only problem is it's not under oath or anything, so he doesn't really mean anything. I mean, he could straight up lie. Same goes for Johnson, to be fair.
Now, I've heard the Prime Minister's very carefully crafted response to that accusation. It's almost sounds like a lawyer wrote it.
Hey, another burn. Oh, but it's actually lit him up here.
So I'll be equally careful with my question. When did the Prime Minister first become aware that any of his staff had concerns about the 20th of May party?
Okay, good question. Question there, because he's going to pit him directly against Dominic Cummings and the rest of the staff. So, okay, good question.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to Right Honourable Gentleman for repeating the question that he's already asked. We have answered.
He's going to say Sue Gray, isn't he? He's going to say Sue Gray.
That it is for the inquiry to come forward with an explanation of what happened, and I'm afraid he simply must wait. But he asks about my staff, Mr. Speaker. He asks about my staff and what my staff are doing and what they have told me. And I can tell him, Mr. Speaker, that they have taken decisions throughout this pandemic that he
to do wine time Fridays every Friday until the restrictions were gone.
That he has opposed to open up in
Oh, shut up, Rob.
July, Mr. Speaker, as I've said, to mount the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, and Mr. Speaker, to double the speed of the booster rollout, with the result that we have the most open economy in Europe, Mr. Speaker. And
bro, like, the hospitals are full. Like, we shouldn't be as open as we are right now. We are struggling. Sue Gray is reporting to Johnson she's not independent. Yes, and she works for the government. She's a civil servant. Hello, Jimmy.
And we have more people in employment and more employees on the payroll now than there were before.
Yeah, we have massive amounts of vacancies because people have gone.
The pandemic began. That is what my staff have been working on in Downing Street, Mr. Speaker, and I'm proud of them.
Keir Starmer.
So, Mr. Speaker, apparently Sue Gray is going to tell the Prime Minister when he first became aware that his staff had concerns about the May 20th.
Oh my God, he's on fire today, isn't he? This is right in his wheelhouse.
The Prime Minister's account gets more extraordinary with each version of his defence. If the Prime Minister's new defence were true, it requires him to suggest that his staff are not being truthful when they say they warned him about the party. It requires the Prime Minister to expect us to believe that whilst every other person who was invited on the 20th of May to the party was told it was a social occasion, he alone was told it was a work meeting.
Burn, another one there, another burn there. That he alone was the only one who wasn't aware that it was a work event. I would mention the fact that his wife was there as well.
It also requires the Prime Minister to ask us to accept that as he waded
Bro, look at this geezer, fam.
through the empty bottles and platters of sandwiches, he didn't
and
realise
cheese.
it was a party. Does the Prime Minister realise how ridiculous that sounds?
Bruv, he needs to start tweeting these out. He needs to start tweeting these clips out. He's lit him up there.
Mr. Speaker, I've said what I've said about the events in Number 10. He will have to wait for what? And
he just has to make him look more and more ridiculous with each question. This is insane.
Mr. Speaker, I think you know he asks for further clarification. I think there are lots of people who are interested. I say this entirely in passing, Mr. Speaker. Lots of people are interested in the exact legal justification from the learned leader of the opposition for the picture of him drinking a pint of beer or a bottle of beer. Mr. Speaker, I merely perhaps he could tell the House about that in a minute, Mr. Speaker.
I'm going to have to tell you this is Prime Minister's questions, not leaders of the opposition's questions. Oops.
What I can tell the House is that
maybe Sue Gray should investigate what happened to Starmer then, even though he did nothing wrong, from what I've read. Maybe Sue Gray should investigate that as well.
Throughout the pandemic, people across government have been working flat out to protect the British public.
They did a bad job, though. They did a terrible job, didn't they, pal? They did a really bad job of protecting the British public. So not going to buy that at all. And no other government has done this. No other departments, no French civil servants haven't done this. The German ones, the Polish ones, the Russian ones, the American ones, they haven't been caught doing this. So, this argument, they're working so hard, they need to do Wine Time Fridays, is ridiculous. Yeah, if only Johnny was here. Hello, Kopak.
So we can now make 80% in this country.
Bro, we already could made massive amounts of PPE within the country. What you did was buy, essentially, ones we couldn't actually use from your donors when we had British PPE ready to go. We had stocks, suppliers, manufacturers saying, yo, we're ready to go. And instead, they exported it abroad because we wouldn't buy any of the stuff. Don't rewrite history today, pal. Not whilst I'm on the mic.
With the biggest and most generous furlough scheme virtually anywhere in the world.
That's not true. I think Germany's furlough scheme was better.
World and the fastest. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, if we listened to them, we would have stayed in the European Medicines Agency.
Oh, that's a lie. That's a straight lie. This is a straight lie.
Have been able to deliver the vaccine roll.
That's a lie. He's just lied to the House once again, because that medicines agency came out and said that EU law permits them to do this. So he's lied to the House once again. When is he going to get called out for this?
At the speed that we do.
He's doing well, Robert.
Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister thinks the only accusation he faces that he once had a beer with the takeaway, then Operation Save Big Dog is in deeper trouble than I thought. If a Prime Minister misleads Parliament, should they resign?
So, Mr. Speaker, let's be absolutely clear.
I've got surround sound headphones, but I still can't tell where the noise is coming from. It's annoying.
The right honourable gentleman is continuing to ask a series of questions which he knows will be fully addressed by the...
Yeah, it's going to be... Do you know what, mate? Michael, there are massive... Oh, sick. Sorry, no, I've got some good news for my friend. Good news for him anyway. Shouts out to him if he does watch these. What was I going to say? There are massive stocks of PPE on airfields that can't be used. They have no idea what some of this stuff is. It's going to get dumped.
He is wasting this House's time. He's wasting the people's time, Mr. Speaker. He continues to be completely irrelevant, Mr. Speaker, because we have an inquiry. We have an inquiry, Mr. Speaker, and I'm not going to anticipate that inquiry any further. What I can tell him is that it is because of the judgments that were taken in Downing Street and because of the willingness of the British people to put trust, by the way, Mr. Speaker, in those
trust,
judgments to come forward in huge numbers to get vaccinated, which people did, and I thank them for it from the bottom of my heart. People did that because they listened to our messages, Mr. Speaker, and it's as a result of that that we now have the fastest growing economy in the G7 and youth unemployment, which he ought to care about, youth unemployment at a record low, Mr. Speaker.
Keir Starmer.
Well, I know it's not going well, Prime Minister, but look on the bright side. At least the staff at number 10 know how to pack a suitcase.
Oh my. He's been practicing all night with these lines, hasn't he? Absolutely smoked him. Oh my god. This is brutal. This is absolutely brutal.
Mr. Speaker, last year Her Majesty the Queen sat alone when she marked the passing of the man she'd been married to for 73 years. She followed the rules of the country that she leads.
Here we go.
On the eve of that funeral, a suitcase was filled with booze and wheeled into Downing Street. A DJ played and staff partied late into the night. The Prime Minister has been forced to hand an apology to Her Majesty the Queen. Isn't he ashamed that he didn't hand in his resignation at the same time?
All right, go on then. Let's see.
Mr. Speaker, I understand
Sue Gray.
why the right honourable gentleman continues to politicise issues.
Sorry, Prime Minister. We normally would not, and quite rightly, mention the royal family.
Oh, get lost. Boo. Get lost.
We don't get into discussions on the royal family.
It's not about not discussing the royal family.
Mr. Speaker, I must ask the right honourable gentleman to withdraw it.
I've dealt with it. Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer, are you going on?
Yo, what's happened to Keir Starmer? He's looking different nowadays. What's going on? Pantomime, absolute pantomime.
Prime Minister, we don't want to go through that again. I'll make the decisions.
Oh, connection.
The answer is the next question. I'm going back to Keir Starmer to ask his final question. Keir Starmer.
Don't mention the royal family. What a joke, bruv. One absolute joke.
Speaker, whilst the Prime Minister wastes energy...
So we can't actually mention Prince Andrew in the House of Commons? Come on.
Defending the indefensible, people's energy bills are rocketing.
Here we go, cost of
Labour
living.
has a plan to deal with it. Axe VAT for everyone.
Labour have a plan. This is what I've been moaning about for the last 2 years. Labour have a plan. Can you believe it, guys? I can't.
Provide extra support for the hardest hit and pay for it with a one-off tax on oil and gas companies. A serious plan for a serious problem. What's the government offering? Nothing. Too distracted by their own chaos to do their job.
It's cutting VAT, doing a windfall tax, and direct support to families. I think that's their plan. To be fair, though, they have got, Ed Miliband as the Shadow Minister for Energy, and Ed Miliband's great. I love Ed Miliband. Apart from 2015, 2014-15, we erased from history, and I love Ed Miliband.
While Labour was setting out plans to heat homes, he was buying a fridge to keep the party wine chilled. While we were setting out plans to keep bills down, he was planning parties.
Hey.
And while we were setting out plans to save jobs in the steel industry, he was trying to save just one job, his own.
Bun.
Doesn't the country deserve so much better than this out of touch, out of control,
elitist,
out of ideas, and soon to be out of office Prime Minister?
Yeah, Kopak, this is what I've been talking about for probably over a year now, that that now Labour look like they're the ones with the plan. They look like they're ready to take over. They've offered solutions for the energy crisis. This is what I'm talking about. I get annoyed when people are like, oh, it's not an election year, you don't need a manifesto. Like, there's current crises going on now. They need to look like they're ready. The coolest guy in MGS2 is Solid Snake. Why? Because he has the answers. That's what you want to look like, the one with the answers.
What this government has been doing to look after the people of this country throughout this pandemic.
Well, he's talking almost as fast as I do. He must be really rattled, isn't it? Like, that's how fast I talk in videos. Jesus.
And beyond.
Yo, is this Eminem doing Rap God out here? What's going on?
We have been cutting the cost of living, helping them with the...
No, you haven't. The cost of living has gone higher. Inflation's at like 5.6% or something. That's a lie. He's just constantly lying to the House. Honestly.
The living wage. We've been raising We've been cutting taxes for people on low pay.
No, you haven't. You're raising national insurance contributions on the lowest paid earners. What? This man, he just... Bruv, you know, truth is optional to this man. Oh my God. He's kidding me.
Mr. Speaker, we've been increasing payments for people suffering the costs of fuel.
No, you haven't. Have you? I've not seen anything. The only thing I've seen is you cut universal credit again. You haven't given that much direct support out. This lies.
Can I just say to Ron in here, our constituents wants to hear the questions and the answers. The great British public, the members of this United Kingdom which you're representing, they need to hear. Please, let's hear the questions and answers. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will continue to
they're
look after
terrified
people throughout this pandemic and beyond. But we've also, Mr. Speaker, been cutting crime by 10%.
Yeah, they did. They did to me.
11,000 more police officers already out on the...
Bro, that's not going to replace like the 20,000 police officers your party cut. Who are you pointing at?
Record home building last year, Mr. Speaker. More homes than at any time in the...
Yeah, no one can afford them.
...last 30 years. We are building...
New build homes aren't even that good.
40 new hospitals, Mr. Speaker.
No, you're not. He's lying again. You're not building 40 new hospitals. You're building like 4 and refurbing 40. He's told lie after lie after lie in the House of Commons, and no one, absolutely no one, holds him accountable. My God. He's going to make my hair fall out like his.
Broadband has gone up from 9% coverage in our country to 65% already. And as I said already, I think 3 times...
Look at the man is rattled. Absolutely rattled.
...or 4 times today.
He's even got a drum beat going on. My God.
We have more people, more employees on the payroll now...
You said that earlier. I already heard this bit.
...before the pandemic began. And unemployment, youth unemployment, at a record low, Mr. Speaker. And when the history of this pandemic comes to be written, and the history of the Labour Party comes...
Yeah, they're going to see you're a massive fraud.
...to be written, and believe me, they are history and will remain history, Mr. Speaker. It will show...
Yeah, he probably does, Conservator.
It will show that we delivered while they dithered.
You're the one who dithered. Bruv, you delayed both the lockdowns. I think we had 3 lockdowns. You delayed all of them. You're the one who dithered.
And
even Rees-Mogg looks unimpressed.
We vaccinated while they vacillated, Mr. Speaker.
Vacillated? What does that even mean?
And the reason we've been able to lift restrictions faster than any other country...
This man's fully rustled, man. Look at him, man.
...in Europe, and we have the most open economy and the most open society in Europe, Mr. Speaker, is thanks to the booster rollout and thanks to the work of staff up and down.
Why are you pointing at Starmer when you say staff? That's just awkward.
Whitehall, across government, throughout the NHS, Mr. Speaker, and I am intensely proud of what this government has done.
I wouldn't be, but that's just me. That's it. That's PMQs done. We'll go for about another 10 minutes, 15 minutes. How does that sound? We'll see a couple of more questions. I don't know, Conservator. What's all this drumming? Like, you're not in a concert.
You'll get more if you let the questions come. Not pausing.
Just start kicking people out.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following on from the excellent news
on
the economy and jobs, the Prime Minister will remember my question to him last June about proposals
Conservative
for
rugby. That's near where I live. So.
Gigafactory in Coventry. Last week, local councils granted outline planning permission to create 6,000 new skilled jobs to secure many thousands of others, inject £2.5 billion into our local economy and level up across our region. With fast rising demand for greener and cleaner electric cars, may I ask him for his support to ensure the swift delivery of this vitally important project.
You want to skip? Should we skip this?
I thank the campaign for Coventry.
And it's quickly become...
Here we go. Come on, Braveheart, let's see what you got.
Thank you.
Is that offensive? I don't know.
This week was supposed to be Operation Save Big Dog.
Big Dog.
But it's quickly become Operation Dog's Dinner. Over the past...
Bro, I'm trying to drink my coffee. Why you gotta do this? Operation Dog's Dinner.
Few days, we've had more damaging revelations about...
Do you mean Hyundai and Nissan?
Downing Street rule making.
more evidence
I want to drink my
that
coffee,
Parliament
bro.
has been misled. And an
I
even
mean, he's done that twice today. Those were pretty, in my opinion, those were pretty brazen lies.
longer list of ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous excuses from the Prime Minister. First he claimed there were no parties. Then he wasn't present. Then he admitted he was at them, but he didn't know it was a party. And then, Mr. Speaker, the latest sorry excuse is really the most pathetic of them all. Nobody told me. Nobody told me. Nobody told the Prime Minister he was breaking his own rules. Absolutely pathetic. The Prime Minister, you know, what a look. The Prime
I mean, surely this is getting a bit noisy now.
Minister laughing once again, laughing at the British public. The Prime Minister is taking the public for fools. Nobody believes him. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility? Resign. Go, Prime Minister.
Oh, yeah, he's got no time for this. Go, get out of here, get lost. Go home. We had enough of you. Not to number 10, to your residency.
No, Mr. Speaker, but I thank him for his question again, and let me just remind him that there's an inquiry that is due to conclude.
He looks like he's chilled a bit more.
Wrong in what he asserts, Mr. Speaker, but we'll have to wait and see what the inquiry says.
He already knows what it says. I'm guaranteed he knows what it
The most
says.
important thing from the point of view of the UK government is that we're coming out of the restrictions that we've been in. I'm delighted to see that that's happening in Scotland as well, and that is very largely thanks to the wonderful cooperation that we continue to see across the whole of the UK. You wouldn't believe it to hear it from him.
Here, Blackburn.
Second question.
Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid nobody is buying this act anymore. There ought to be some respect and dignity from the Prime Minister. Let's remind ourselves, more than 150,000 of our citizens have died, and he's partying, he's laughing. Mr. Speaker, it simply isn't acceptable. The fake contrition, the endless excuses, the empty promises that it will be different only if we give him one last chance. This is a Prime Minister who arrogantly believes that he's above the rules. A Prime Minister who brazenly twists the truth. A Prime Minister who simply isn't fit for office. The Prime Minister's former chief advisor has said that he lied to Parliament, breaking the ministerial code. Prime Minister, a resignation offence. Public trust is hemorrhaging. With every day that passes, this Tory government loses even more credibility. When will the Tory MPs finally do the right thing?
Go on, Blackford. This is what he's got to do. He's got to hit the backbenchers and say, when are you guys going to take the right decision? This is what he's going to do. Starmer has to do more of this. He has to do more of this. Oh.
The Prime Minister the door.
That's much better.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the right honourable gentleman, but I must say that I disagree with him. And I think that when you look at the levels of trust that the British people in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, across the whole country have shown in government,
they don't trust you, bro. They don't trust you that much at all. Have you seen your favourability numbers? Woo! Excuse me.
There is the single biggest index, Mr. Speaker, of that trust has been their willingness to come forward voluntarily, Mr. Speaker, unlike many other countries in the world, to get vaccinated on a scale not seen anywhere else in Europe.
I mean, that's not true. By the raw numbers, a country like Germany I would assume, have more vaccinations than us. And if you talk about percentage of population, I mean, countries like Denmark and those other countries would have higher numbers than us. That doesn't even make sense.
It's because of our ability to.
I think say maybe Starmer wants Scotland to leave.
That it's the right thing. It's a fantastic thing. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, it's also a tribute to the United Kingdom, because that vaccine rollout was a UK effort.
Parliament, thank you, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to exporting, as you're well aware, file punches well above its weight. And the Prime Minister saw this when he visited BE Systems.
Normally they put up a graphic of the person speaking, but this guy hasn't got a graphic.
Factory of the future in Lancashire last year. In addition, fantastic
we'll go to about
global
quarter
businesses such as Helical Technologies, Tangerine Holdings and Nature's Aid are doing a great job for flying the flag for Lancashire globally.
but I've also got many smaller businesses who are eager to get exporting into new markets. What steps is the Prime Minister taking to help vital businesses make the most of Brexit and maximise export potential?
He's doing nothing.
Well, I
Diddly
thank
squat.
him for championing. I thank him for what he's doing to champion trade with Latin America, and I've no doubt that businesses, small businesses such as Squire Hare, are eager to get into those new markets.
Who's
and
Squire
we will do
Hare?
everything that we can to help and support him in his efforts.
Who's this? Nadine Dorris is tweeting. What? What's she on the phone for?
Mr. Speaker, as the cost of living crisis deepens, this government's priorities get ever more remote from my Kirkcaldy and Cowdenbeath constituency. Only this week, I learned a veteran in my constituency, James Scott, took his own life as a result of his struggle with mounting financial pressures. This is a government who were found to have acted unlawfully by the High Court over COVID contracts and now preparing to write off £4.3 billion allocated to those COVID schemes. Why can the UK government find billions of pounds for profiteers and fraudsters, but they can't find compassion to treat the people with dignity, lifting the benefits cap and reinstating the cut to universal credit?
Those are very, very good points there. Extremely well done. Because at the end of the day, we do have a massive cost of living crisis. And people, that gentleman, his former constituent, took his own life because of mounting financial pressure, and yet the Treasury has money for dodgy contracts, to write off massive amounts of COVID debt. I mean, that is a very important point this MP's made here. Much respect.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to say how sorry I am for what he's had to say about James Scott, and this government does as much as we can to support veterans, and that's why we published the Veterans Action Plan only.
I mean, that guy, former Minister for Veterans, he resigned because those things didn't go far enough. So, not a great statement right there off the bat. I can't remember his name. He's quite prolific on Twitter.
Only the other
Tory
day,
MP.
Mr. Speaker. But what we're also doing is ensuring that we support people throughout this crisis. He mentions, and I've said in my answer to the right honourable gentleman, many of the steps that we're taking.
Again, you got another person on their phone. You got someone on a giant tablet. What are you guys doing? A third person on their phone? It's embarrassing.
Protect people on low incomes, and we will continue to do more. Mr.
You haven't though. You're the one.
Bruv,
you're part of the reason people are on such low incomes. Unreal stuff here.
Contracts for PPE. Actually, I think
what about
it was an
boosters,
astonishing
Conservative?
thing,
Where are we for boosters? Oops.
At great speed to be able to give this country 17 billion items of PPE, thanks to the efforts of people across Whitehall. Mr. Speaker, this country is now capable of producing 80% of our own PPE.
Kate Ruth.
Bruv, he didn't ask you about PPE. He asked about cost of living.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Shortly before Christmas, my constituent, Oliver Freckleton, was found at home having been stabbed to death on the eve of his 20th birthday.
Oof.
Yesterday, his heartbreaking
Johnny Mercer,
parents
that's the one.
held their son's funeral. Oliver leaves behind a partner and a baby daughter, and 2 teenagers have been arrested for his murder. Now, this tragic event leaves behind a devastated family, friends, and a very worried community. I'm grateful for the work that Staffordshire Police is undertaking to tackle violent crime in my constituency, and the extra 149 additional police officers recruited is very welcome. But does the Prime Minister agree with me that a multi-stakeholder approach is vital to tackling crimes amongst our young people? And what can the government do to support not just the police, but schools, colleges and local authorities in working to address this issue?
Okay, I'll take this one. Don't worry, Johnson, I'll take this question. Fund schools and things properly, fund the education system properly, create more opportunities for people, for younger people, which we don't have a ton of thanks to you clowns. Also, look at the reasons behind violent crime and things like that. Increase police numbers and judge numbers as well, judge sitting days. And create a better rehabilitation process. Okay, cut to the next question, please. Oh, wait. Johnson.
My honourable friend, first of all, I'm very sad to hear the news of the loss of her constituent, Oliver. And like so many victims of violent crime, the answer, as is the case with so many victims, the answer is not just policing, though that is vitally important, and that's why we're investing so.
You cut massive police numbers. Well, not you, Dave and Theresa May.
Massively in 20,000 more police officers and supporting them with toughening the law, Mr. Speaker. But it's also, as she rightly says, important to get all the institutions of the state to work together: schools, colleges, social services, and the health service, mental health service as well.
That's a good one.
Yeah, your party's consistently cut most of those, so yeah, you're not going to do great, are you?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Why is it so hard for this Prime Minister to admit that he made the rules, so he should know the rules and he should follow the rules? Everyone out there knows it's as simple as that. And if he had any shred of compassion for all those out there who've suffered through this, he'd go.
Okay. Not really a question.
Mr. Speaker, I entirely understand people's feelings, and I entirely support.
You don't understand people's feelings, otherwise you'd have resigned, you dummy.
About obeying the rules when you make the rules. She's completely right. On the other hand, I do urge her to wait, as I said to the benches of it, to wait until next week.
Well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Jeremy Hunt.
They've been told there's going to be an inquiry. They've visited every single question on one issue. Well, my constituents wants to get on with other things.
Oh yeah, stop talking about this giant scandal where the Prime Minister is alleged to have broken the rules, along with members of Downing Street. Let's forget about that. Let's talk about something else.
21, the government estimated that at least 800 million will be released from the Dormant Asset Scheme extension. Does he agree with me that funding through a new community wealth fund will be a catalyst to level up the most left-behind communities, and the bill should include specific provision for a consultation on the scope?
Jimmy, you've got to ask you to watch the language a bit, pal.
Mr. Speaker, we certainly are legislating to, thank you very much, we will be legislating to expand the Dormant Asset Scheme to include new financial assets, which would unlock
definitely not. I hate Theresa May. I hate Theresa May more than I hate Johnson.
To spend the English portion of that, and the Community Wealth Fund that he proposes is certainly.
We'll do two more questions, guys.
Thank you very much.
Two more.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent Anne has told me a friend saw the ambulance outside the house on the night Anne's husband died. She wasn't allowed to go into the house to comfort her friend. Anne's husband went to his rest in an almost empty building, while scores of his friends stood freezing outside. Anne went home to an empty house to grieve the rest of the day alone. My constituent Susan wasn't allowed to go in the ambulance or even follow the ambulance, blue light and all, after her husband had a heart attack. Other constituents had the heartbreaking realisation they weren't allowed to go into care homes to break the news in person to their relatives that someone else in the family had died. Mr. Speaker, in their words, not mine, in their words, the Prime Minister is a charlatan, a hypocrite and a liar. What will he now say to my constituents?
Look, I know you're repeating what your constituents said. I want more moderate and temperate language.
Well, what do you mean more moderate and temperate language? He's literally quoting someone. Do you want him to change the quote? Because he's not allowed to do that. That's a joke, honestly.
Prime Minister might just want to deal with the general question, certainly not the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to repeat that I understand the
Sue
feelings
Gray.
that he has relayed to me, as I said last week, and I sympathise very deeply with the feelings, and I understand why people feel as they do. And I thank people very much for everything they have done. I recognise the enormous sacrifice that people have made. I apologise for misjudgments that may have been made in number 10 by me
may have been made.
And anybody else. But please, can I ask him to wait for the inquiry to conclude?
Andrew Lower.
When this Sue Gray thing comes out, they're going to milk it for everything. They'll be like, oh, Sue Gray didn't find any wrongdoing, me. That's all you're going to hear.
Mr. Speaker, I recently attended a debate held by my honourable friend for West Aberdeenshire and Kincardine, seeking a central London memorial for the Photographic Reconnaissance Unit. And in it,
Northampton South. Oh, okay. That's not my MP, but not far. He's very close. The way they've done the thingies is weird. So he's like, Northampton South is really close to where I am. So yeah, that was an odd way to find out. But yeah, well, Joe Hoylers, indeed. But yeah, this guy, not my local MP, but very close. I'm Northampton North.
My Northampton South constituent, mosquito pilot, Mr. George Pritchard, who is 98 next week and is one of the last surviving members of the unit. Will the Prime Minister join my honourable friend, me and Mr. Pritchard in backing this fitting and needed memorial?
I thank him very much, and I will certainly do what I can to support it, though, of course, as he knows, the memorial to George Pritchard, though, as he knows, this is a matter for local authorities. What this House and what this government can certainly do is ensure that memorials are not desecrated, as they have been across this
Okay, culture war stuff.
country, and make sure that we support legislation that penalises those who indulge in such desecration, Mrs.
Dame Diana Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when a Prime Minister is spending his time trying to convince the great British public that he's actually stupid rather than dishonest...
Oh, that's great. That's great. She's like, how is the Prime Minister going to go with the I'm not malicious, I'm just incompetent. What a burn that was. Oh my god. Oh.
Isn't it time that he goes now?
Okay. I would have went with, the country doesn't deserve a stupid and incompetent Prime Minister. Time to go, pal. That was a burn. Huge burn.
Mr. Speaker,
Sue Gray.
I think that was a question for you rather than me, but I'm not. Look, I've made my point. I think that the British public have responded to what this government has had to say in the most eloquent way possible. They have beaten COVID so far, Mr. Speaker. They have helped to defeat COVID so far, Mr. Speaker, with the steps they have taken by getting vaccinated and implementing Plan B, and I thank them.
What?
Just for the Prime Minister, for the record, it's not Speaker's questions. Mr. Robert Goodall.
Okay, Mr. Funny Man.
Armed forces have earned the respect and admiration of our nation, not least during the pandemic. On Remembrance Sunday, we commemorate their sacrifices, but on Armed Forces Day, on the 25th of June, we will celebrate all that is amazing about our Army, Navy and Air Force. In a normal year, we get about 20,000 people at the event in Scarborough, but this year, we will finally host, after twice being postponed, National Armed Forces Day. Will the Prime Minister pull out all the stops on land, sea and air to make this truly an event to remember?
It sounds like a waste of taxpayers' money, but whatever.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've no doubt that Armed Forces Day will be absolutely spectacular across the country, and that Scarborough will make a terrific contribution and a notable contribution as well.
Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last April, I asked the Prime Minister if he agreed with the principle that politicians shouldn't lie. He replied that he concurred with the basic principle that the Honourable Gentleman has just enunciated. Would he like to amend the record?
What?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Simon Hall.
Thank you,
Quick
Mr.
hits.
Speaker. The vast majority of people, and indeed politicians across Northern Ireland, believe that whatever the question, double jobbing is not the answer. Could I urge
Double jobbing? What? I'm not going to go into that phrase.
my right honourable friend to listen to the majority and ask him not to move the government amendment in the other place later today?
I'm grateful to my honourable friend, and I'm advised that I think the amendment in question is indeed going to be withdrawn.
Twist.
DP knocked me up about that.
My constituents are
Brother, you don't need to shout. There are microphones and stuff. Chill. God.
rightly angry at the Prime Minister's behaviour. But while Downing Street fights to save his political life, people across the North East are worrying about rising food and energy bills, rising unemployment and rising levels of child poverty. He talks about levelling up, but my constituents are seeing opportunities cut.
Level down.
Does the Prime Minister agree with me that his government has failed and it's time for him to go?
Should have said he's leveled down. Yeah, that's the one I would have gone with, but I'm a nerd, so... Okay, that's what he says.
No, Mr. Speaker, I really don't agree with her. And I don't think she could have been following anything that's being said this afternoon.
You don't follow things that you've said, it's follow the things that you've done, you clown.
We have unemployment falling to near record lows, Mr. Speaker, and we have job vacancies. We have job vacancies at record highs.
That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing, bro. That means industry is struggling to get workers. That's not a good thing. If unemployment is so low and we're still facing a massive increase in vacancies. That's a problem.
That's what Conservative governments do. They create.
Oh, look, that's a big cell phone there. Big cell phone.
Jobs, and they get the economy moving.
Our economy's not doing that great, though.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A couple more, guys.
Like many on these benches, I've spent weeks and months defending the Prime Minister against often angry constituents.
Ooh, was that David Davies?
I've reminded them of his
Oh, check out the hardware on that camera.
success in delivering Brexit and on the vaccine.
The big failure in Brexit.
And many other things. But I expect my leaders to shoulder the responsibility for the actions they take. Yesterday, he did the opposite of that. So I'll remind him of a quotation altogether too familiar to him of Leo Amery to Neville Chamberlain. You have sat there too long for all the good you have done. In the name of God, go.
Oh, okay. Burn. And this is, David Davies is a senior Tory, and he could easily lead this bunch of newbies into a potential revolt against Johnson. Very senior guy, David Davies. Where's Theresa May? Is Theresa May not normally in shot? She's somewhere like here, I think. Must be on a different bench, but there's a lot of newbie MPs up here, and David Davies could easily lead them into putting in letters of resignation, letters of no confidence against the Tory MP Prime Minister, especially when those letters are private. Like they are private. The only person who knows who signed them is Sir Graham Brady. That's it.
Order, Prime Minister.
Order.
I must say to the right honourable gentleman, I don't know what he's talking about, but what I could...
Wow, is that how you talk to your friends? I don't know what you're talking about, bruh. That's not going to win him a lot of support, is it?
I can tell him, I don't know what quotation he's alluding to, he's referring, but what I can tell him is that I think I've told this House repeatedly throughout this pandemic, I take full responsibility for everything done in this government.
No, you haven't, though. You haven't taken full responsibility. If you did, you'd resign. I don't know who this geezer is. Never seen him before.
And throughout the pandemic.
Stephen Kinnock.
Does the Prime Minister agree with the Leader of the House that the
He is,
Leader of
Jimmy.
the Scottish Conservatives is a lightweight?
Oh.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative approach to the Union is one that I think is right for our country. We want to keep it together, and I think Conservatives in Scotland do an excellent job, and that's why their stout defiance, their stout defence of the
He's
Union
making this up as he goes along.
was repaid at the last election, and Labour, Mr. Speaker, is increasingly endangering our unions.
Clayton Drummond.
What is that? So first he goes, he didn't actually mention Douglas Ross's name, right? He should have mentioned it really if he's throwing his support behind him. Then he was like, and Labour are a threat to the union. No, the SNP are a threat to the union, not Labour. What are you, bro? This guy, what? Oh, he hurts me. He hurts me, people. I'm so sorry. It's just painful.
Mr. Speaker, and many people last week welcomed the 5-year moratorium on smart motorways. However, the M27 is due to be open as a smart motorway in a couple of months. What reassurance can my right honourable friend give my constituents
motorways
in
are bad.
Valley and others in the rest of South Hampshire that the M27 will be safe and give them confidence to
They're
use
not safe. They're very dangerous.
I thank her very much, and I can assure her that we're well aware of the risks associated with the smart motorway scheme. I know that my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Transport, is looking at it right now.
That's Shaps.
We
Must be
now
Shaps.
come to the Prime Minister's COVID-19 statement. I now call the Prime Minister.
Okay, it's going to be a ton of lies, so we're going to skip this.
Mr. Speaker, with permission, I will make a statement on our progress against...
Oh, everyone's going.
Prime Minister, just let the room clear a little bit.
Where's everyone going?
Order, can we please leave quickly and quietly?
Does no one want to know about what he's going to say about the virus? No?
What a day.
What a day. Did anyone hear that?
Speaker Lindsay Hoyle just saying what a day. He certainly has had a busy...
Encouraging people to change their behaviour to slow the spread of the virus. We kept England...
Okay, so if we've got anything else of interest.
Tested lateral flow test.
Keir Starmer.
Oh, okay. Are we starting again? What's going on here?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Prime Minister for advance sight of his statement. Throughout the pandemic, the British public have made enormous sacrifices to limit the spread of the virus, staying at home, social distancing, and, unlike the Prime Minister, cancelling parties. I would like to thank everybody who has followed the rules. I'd like to thank the NHS staff and volunteers who...
I'd like to thank everybody except Boris Johnson and his team.
...rolled out the booster jab. The Labour Party does not want to see restrictions in place any longer than necessary. We will support the relaxation of Plan B as long as the science says that it is safe.
Okay.
So can the Prime Minister share the scientific evidence behind his decision and reassure the public that he's acting to protect their health, not just his job?
Great question there. That's a great question, because he's asking him specifically, what are you using to back up the things that you're doing here in terms of restrictions? This is a very, very good question.
The 438 deaths recorded yesterday are a solemn reminder that this pandemic is
he's getting rid of Plan B rules.
We need to remain vigilant, learn the lessons from the government's mistakes. With new variants highly likely, we must have a robust plan to live well with COVID. So where is it? He's too distracted to do the job.
With
and
wine and
it's
cheese.
not just the Prime Minister who's letting us down.
Front bench.
Where's the Health Secretary's plan to prepare for another wave of infections? Why isn't the Chancellor working with British manufacturers to shore up our domestic supplies of tests?
Go on.
Where is the Foreign Secretary's plan to help vaccinate the world? They're all too busy plotting their leadership campaigns to keep the public safe.
Well done, mate.
While the Conservative Party tear themselves apart, jostling for position, looking inward, the Labour Party is focused on the national interest, filling their void. We have a plan.
This is what I've been saying for like months on end. Labour have to show that they're the party ready, that they have plans. And everyone's like, oh, no, it's not an election. Or, you know, the Tories will just nick their plans. At least you're there first. You know, honestly, you know, the Labour are actually looking good.
The Prime Minister doesn't. We would train and retain a reserve army of volunteer vaccinators. We will build a supply of test kits made in Britain to protect us from global shortages. We would raise statutory sick pay and make all workers eligible. Keep schools open by improving ventilation.
Go on.
Break the endless cycle of new variants by playing our part in vaccinating the world.
Yes.
We would produce a roadmap for decision-making to ensure efficient action when it's demanded.
No. What's going on? Why can't I hear anything?
Vaccine manufacturing centre.
What the hell happened there?
And we would never again allow our NHS and social care.
Look how interested our Home Secretary is. And whoever this geezer is. Honestly.
Service to be so run down and underfunded, understaffed and overstretched as it has been over the last decade of a Tory government.
This lady here is on her phone as well.
Labour has a plan to live well with COVID and secure our lives, livelihoods and liberties. Where's his?
That was phenomenal. That is Labour saying, we're ready. You know, we've got a plan. We're ready to govern today. You know, we've got everything lined up. What are you going to do? Where's your science? Where's your data? Where's your evidence? That's great stuff here. That was very well prepared. No, Labour actually looking very promising. You know, this is the first time in a while I can say that, where Labour, you know, forget Partygate and all this nonsense, right? Labour are looking pretty good here. We're going to see what the Wonder Clown says.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to share the scientific advice on which we've taken this decision. Of course,
do it then.
And he can see it's there for everybody to consult. But he asks about our testing abilities, Mr. Speaker. We're conducting about 1.25 million tests a day. We have the biggest capability to do tests of any country in Europe.
Bro, we ran out of tests. We had to borrow like 4 million from Wales. What are you talking about?
We've built, as I promised the House, Mr. Speaker, and he attacked me at the time, I said, well, we have a world-beating testing industry, a massive diagnostics facility, which we never had before. He attacks the government over the distribution of vaccines to the rest of the world. We've already done 30 million. We'll do 100 million.
Preet Patel, it's Prime Minister's questions, not Home Secretary's questions.
by June, Mr. Speaker, and 2.5 billion AstraZeneca vaccines have been distributed around the world, thanks to the deal the UK government did with AstraZeneca.
So 2.5 billion, is that just the UK's contribution? Is that the entire contribution? Because that's not a lot, given there's, what, 8 billion people in the world? If we say probably at 4 billion in the developed south, I mean, you're going to need 8 billion vaccines at the minimum, if those are the numbers, and then you're going to need boosters on top of that, potentially. So yeah, not great.
So that those vaccines are distributed at cost price. He talks about funding the NHS. That party, Mr. Speaker, voted against the funding that we're going to need to clear the COVID backlogs.
Did they? I doubt it. You probably tagged it with other bills. I mean, this sounds like rubbish. You know, you're the one who spent 32 billion or whatever it was on test and trace. If that money was given to the NHS, we'd be in a much better position. But then again, if your party didn't cut so much from the NHS, we'd be in a much better position. Excuse me, sorry.
And fund our NHS. Mr. Speaker, throughout this pandemic, he has been absolutely shameless in veering from one position to the next. And he has been...
No, that's you, bro. You're the person who's done that.
He has been wrong. He has been wrong about virtually every single important decision. He was wrong about keeping schools open, Mr. Speaker. Do you remember he consistently refused to say that they were safe because of what his paymasters in the
I mean, they're not safe.
Union were telling him.
They're not safe.
Was wrong about going forward from lockdown in July, on July the 19th. He said it was reckless. Do you remember, Mr. Speaker? He was totally wrong. He was wrong about, the Labour front bench were wrong about going through Christmas and New Year with Plan B, as we did.
I mean, the NHS are full. Like, bruv, like they're stopping routine operations. Starmer was right.
They said we needed a roadmap back to lockdown. He did. That guy did. Oh no, wait, it was Ashwin. Maybe it was you. It was that guy.
It's that guy. No, it's that guy. No, the one at the back over here.
They said they wanted a roadmap back to lockdown, Mr. Speaker. At every step, and above all, Mr. Speaker, they tried to undermine the vaccine task force and to say that you could not spend money. They said you.
What's this geezer doing here? What is this? What are you doing, bruv, Nadeem Zahawi? You know, taking taxpayer money to fund your horse stables for heating. What are you doing, bruv?
Should not be spending £675,000 of taxpayers' money on outreach to vaccine-hesitant groups. That's their idea of priority spending, Mr. Speaker. He has been, it's been absolutely miserable listening to the opposite bench because they have had nothing useful to say. They have flip-flopped opportunistically from one position to the other. And, Mr. Speaker, did you get any idea from what he said just now whether or not he supports what we're doing? No.
He just said, if the science backs it, they'll back the government. That's what he said. Pretty sure that's what he said. So yeah, if you show him the science, if it works, he'll back it. What are you doing, bruv? He just said that to you like 2 minutes ago. Do you have short-term memory loss?
No. So he does support it. Okay, he supports it this week, Mr. Speaker. But what you can be certain of, Mr. Speaker, is that if he thinks that there's any political opportunity in opposing it next week, he won't hesitate.
He's asking you for the science, big man.
He's been Captain Hindsight throughout, Mr. Speaker.
Bro, Captain Hindsight, you're the one saying in hindsight I wouldn't have gone to the party. What? What?
Captain Hindsight, and he's had absolutely nothing useful to say or to contribute.
Theresa May!
Theresa May, okay.
Mr. Speaker, I refer the House to my entry in the Members' Register. Can I say to my right honourable friend that many of my constituents work in the aviation sector. I welcome the announcement he's made about Plan B restrictions today, but I note he made no reference to the tests still required for people coming into England. If we're going to learn to live with COVID, we need to facilitate travel. So will he take this opportunity to announce that when Plan B restrictions are removed next week, the government also make it clear that there will be no test requirements for anybody entering England who is fully vaccinated?
It's a good way to stop variants.
I thank my right honourable friend. We're certainly reviewing the testing arrangements for travel, and my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Health, will be making a statement in the next few days on that, Mr. Speaker. But I think it's very important that everybody in the country understands that getting your booster, wherever you want to go in the world, getting your booster...
In particular,
gives us... Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Prime Minister for advance sight of his statement. We're all grateful that the data suggests that we've turned a corner in the Omicron wave, and that the success of the vaccination programme in particular gives us cause to be hopeful in the months ahead. But though declining, the level of infection is still undoubtedly high, and the NHS remains under pressure. That is why caution is the key, rather than the PM strategy of throwing caution to the wind.
Yeah, Delta did enter from abroad,
yeah. Of face coverings and indoor
Delta came from India, I believe.
And working from home where possible, which Scotland still has in place throughout, are extremely important in the weeks ahead, as is the guidance on lateral flow test. So, will the Prime Minister guarantee, and maybe if he can come off his phone, because this is important, so will the Prime Minister guarantee that lateral flow tests will remain free as they are required, and put to bed speculation that they will be removed free at the point of need?
That's a great question, because there was a story in the Telegraph about it.
While the data gives us cause to be optimistic, the real problem for the Prime Minister is that no matter what the data has said today, he had no choice but to throw caution to the wind. The pathetic and unbelievable excuses that he doesn't know his own rules have left the Prime Minister weak. The Prime Minister is unable to lead on this issue or on any other. And the public can't trust a single word that the Prime Minister says. Any shred of credibility has gone. In a global pandemic, which is what the World Health Organization is cautioning, is nowhere near over, and during which new variants are likely to emerge, it is deeply concerning that we have a Prime Minister like this at the helm who simply is not fit to lead. And even though, thankfully, the figures give us cause to be hopeful, it's clear that the Prime Minister cannot carry on when his credibility has all gone.
Prime Minister. Well, Mr Speaker, I repeat the points I made earlier on to the...
Essentially, Boris Johnson had no choice but to end restrictions. Okay, good question.
Right honourable gentleman, and I think that the whole effort, the reason we're in the state that we are, is because of the immense cooperation there's been across the whole of the UK. He talks about testing, and of course we'll keep lateral flow tests free for as long as is necessary. But testing has been a fantastic example of union collaboration. I've seen for myself tests being being assessed in Glasgow that were coming from people in Sussex. It's been I've seen the work of the UK Armed Services helping people across the whole of the UK to move people who needed treatment to wherever. It has been a fantastic example of union collaboration. I hope he bears that in mind.
Absolutely. We now come to the Chair of the Select Committee, Jeremy Hunt.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. At the height of the first wave, this government had the courage to pre-order 400 million doses of vaccine without even knowing if they worked, and that has laid the foundations for us having the best vaccine programme of any large country. So I welcome today's announcement. It won't surprise the Prime Minister, though, if I draw his attention to the fact that NHS doctors and nurses are absolutely shattered. He will have seen this week that 1 in 6 doctors say that they have had near misses or harmed patients because of exhaustion. So if he doesn't want to accept the Select Committee's recommendations to address the workforce crisis, what will he do to give hope to...
Bro, most of these crises were caused by you, buddy. Caused by you. You know, you were the health minister for years.
To our brilliant frontline staff.
Okay, this is the last one.
First of all, Mr Speaker, I want to, my right honourable friend has a great deal of expertise in this matter. I want to thank everybody in the NHS, all staff, frontline, and all staff for what they've been doing. And I know he's right of what he says about how tired people are. They're exhausted, Mrs.
How do you, big man?
Speaker, but they're also working heroically and doing an incredible job. And it's because there are 17,000 COVID cases that, as I said, we've got to remain cautious in spite of the
what? What do you mean remain cautious? You're throwing caution to the wind.
The gentleman opposite was saying we do need to remain cautious, and we need to make sure that we continue to recruit for our amazing NHS. There are now 44,000 more healthcare professionals, Mr. Speaker, than there were in 2020. And that's as a result
of healthcare professionals. That's across the board. You know, multiple sectors.
recruitment by this government.
I should have covered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that the vaccine still remains one of the best defences against this virus, but over the past month we have seen a slowing in the booster vaccination rate. So can the Prime Minister update the House as to when he expects a completion date for the booster vaccination, but also can he set out a plan as to how he is going to encourage take-up of the vaccination?
That's the problem. It's because Omicron is seen wrongly to be a mild disease, that people are not getting the vaccine in the way that they might. And we need to break down that apathy with.
I mean, yeah, that's actually a good point from Johnson, that people see it as mild as they don't need to get vaccinated, but the problem is it's more infectious, it's going to spread more, and it can, it's not about just killing you. If it puts you in hospital or whatever, that's still a massive problem. Yeah, thank him. Give him a good pay rise. Yeah, it's been nice watching with this with the audience as well. I'll tell you what, I've got to end it here because I'm going to the gym probably in the next 5 minutes, so I need to get ready. Yeah, it's been nice, and do you know what? I'll try and do this weekly as best I can. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments if you watch this back. It's been going for about an hour and a bit, so yeah, gonna end it here. It's a good place to end it, and 18 people to end the stream. That's not bad. It's good numbers, and yeah, hopefully I'll catch you guys next time.